Welcome to the VirtualLight broadcast. This one's for November of 2024. We are moving through this reality of 2024 very, very quickly. It's been, on some levels it's amazing, on other levels it's scary as heck. So anyway, this will be toward the end of October, obviously, but we always do it for the month ahead. So that's what's going on. So welcome today. You know, we've got so much going on here. I want to take just a moment and thank everybody for being a part of the connection that we've made here on the internet and doing the work that we get to do. It's been absolutely astounding for us to be able to complete this energy and do the things that we wanted to do here. So thank you all for doing that. We're going to be celebrating a very special opportunity of the VirtualLight broadcast coming up. It's probably going to take us until January or February to put it together, but we're looking forward to it. So anyway, okay, watch this space. We'll share more with that about things that are coming up. Of course, you've heard about our move. In the meantime, if you haven't received one already, you're probably going to be receiving an email fairly soon from steverother.org. That is the new website we're moving over to. It is going to be aspavo.org, so it'll all be the same thing. But we had to use two different names to start it out and to get it going. But anyway, you'll receive that. That automatically sets you up with your account, but you will need to go in and set up a new password for yourself to be able to work with things. Ladies and gentlemen, we have so much going on planet Earth. I want to take just a moment, if you will, to just reach out and hold each other's hands for just a minute and send peace and civility to all inhabitants of planet Earth, to calm down the potential challenges that we have. On one areas, we're in this crazy election, and other areas we're at war, at possibilities of World War III. So let's calm the whole thing down. Let's just take a deep breath. Just reach out and energetically hold each other's hands for just a moment. You're spread out all over the planet in different places. It's a perfect opportunity for you to plant a little bit of light where you are in your locality right now. Good. And just visualize for a second that everything is calming down, that we're starting to come to some common understandings together and to release some of this negativity and these challenges that have been going on planet Earth. Good. Take a breath. And as you release, finally, let's receive gratitude, the greatest of all the creation potentials. Be thankful for what you have right now in the midst of wherever you are. There are many people who have lost everything recently. There's people that are in the midst of wars. We know many of them. Many of them are part of the Aspavo family. The reality is we're seeing it all over the place. Be thankful for where you are first. That's probably the best. Go into a state of gratitude right off the bat and then extend out into the rest of the world and reach a hand out. Good. Take a breath and just come on back into your body when you're ready. Excellent. Thank you so much. We're also getting pelted, if you haven't heard it, with X-ray solar flares that are coming in from different parts, and they seem to be sweeping across. So they used to be pointed in one direction mostly, but now they're coming out in a different way and really blanketing planet Earth with some beautiful auroras that you get to see as a result of this. But we're also absorbing that energy. So please be aware that you might be a little bit on edge from some of the energies that are coming in. This might be a difficult time to make good decisions. You want to take a breather. You want to make sure you're grounded during this time because you're actually getting a lot of energy coming in from the sun. These are the neutrinos that we talked about that science basically says just passes through us. They don't actually interact with our physical bodies at all. The group says they do, and we're getting a lot of them right now. They're not harmful, but we're simply getting overcharged in some areas. So anyway, that's it. They wanted to make you aware. NASA, the most recent thing that I saw from spaceweather.com says that they have now declared that the peak of the cycle 25 is here. And that's the solar cycle that we're in. When they say the peak, they're talking about the next year. Okay, so that the reality is we're going to be getting these for a while. And the idea is that we all, especially as light workers, as empathic beings, it's very important to be grounded, to let that energy come into you, but also to ground it, to release it. How do you do that? Well, everybody does it differently, obviously. Sometimes these are eating good foods. Sometimes these are enjoying yourself. Sometimes these are doing the creative things that you love to do and bringing through your own channels. Sometimes it's, whatever it is. Sometimes it's touch. Sometimes it's sex. Whatever the case, these are grounding tools that you can bring through the physical body to not build up that energy in the physical body. When you do build it up, it ends up in the vagus nerve. We've talked a lot about that. That makes it more difficult for you to release it over periods of time. So anyway, with that, know that we can all work together with this. And as long as we stay grounded, as long as we stay on purpose, and we stay connected, we can make a huge difference. All right, I'm going to bring you Meg. She's got an incredible segment here today that I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing myself. I don't get to watch them all beforehand because she records them the day before, or the day of sometimes. But anyway, we've got some magical segments here today, so I'm thrilled to bring you Meg Adamson.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be here with you again this month. Let's jump right in. So the topic that I want to discuss this month is, who is your authentic self? I come across this term a lot in my line of work as a clinical hypnotherapist. Clients will often say to me that I want to become my authentic self. And what I've come to realize is that this means something different to everyone. So in my curiosity, I looked up the Webster's dictionary meaning, and it said, to live in accordance with one's own beliefs and values rather than those of others. Which makes sense, right? In other words, to be uniquely you, living by your own beliefs. But the question that I want to ask you is, are your own beliefs about you authentic? This is where it becomes very nuanced. What if your beliefs from your past state that you weren't loved enough, or cared for enough, or seen, or valued, or safe? What if those beliefs are still being held dominant? Right? If you've not dealt with those silent beliefs, and they're silent because they're running unconsciously, this is because your subconscious mind is holding them dominant. If you experienced emotional pain, it registers that, prioritizes that. Why? Because its job is to keep you alive and to keep you safe and to govern your body. So it's now going to prioritize that, hold that dominant, and weigh everything against that. In essence, always being on guard to make sure that you never experience that feeling again. So that turns into sabotage. So being on guard means I don't take those risks, or you don't go for that promotion. You don't believe you're capable. You don't start that business, or ask that person out, or tell that person how you truly feel in a vulnerable way. And are you living authentically? But authentically isn't getting you anywhere near where you want to truly be. Because in essence, you are living authentically, but you're living authentically to those limiting beliefs, to that past pain and the protection of it. And so there's this internal conflict that says, there's a part of me that knows I want more, I'm meant for more, there's a bigger path ahead for me. And yet every time I try to consider it or step into it or move towards it, procrastination comes in and I shut the whole thing down. That's a coping mechanism. Or I get scared and I freeze. Or the voice in my head starts to tell me all the reasons why that can't work for me. So you see, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between past pain and present fear of that same pain. There's no o'clock in the subconscious mind. There's no time. There's only now. and each now moment. So if you're not living your life in a way that you love, chances are that your silent past is running your life right now. And you feel like there's nothing you can do about it because it feels like that's how it is. It feels like that's what's true. But deep down, somewhere inside of you knows this isn't true. There's an innate intelligence, right? The subconscious mind isn't just a function of your brain. There is a field of consciousness, and it's part of that field. And that consciousness is never going to be in agreement with you when you say that you're not capable, or that you're not smart, or that you're not lovable, or that you'll be single forever, or that you'll never be successful, or whatever it is that you tell yourself that you can't have. There's a part of you inside that knows that's not true. And that's actually why it feels so bad. Right? Our subconscious mind is also the seat of our emotion. It's where all of our memories are stored. Every single memory we've ever had. Can you imagine how intricate that filing system is? And the moment we start to feel badly about something we want that we don't believe that we can have, that feeling is telling us that's a subconscious communication. And it's because there's a conflict, because there is an innate part of you that says that is not who you are, and you can have everything that you want. But you've got to believe it. And so we get this sort of jumbled up. We think, I want to live authentically, which means I want all the things that I want, and I want to feel good about myself. That's what I want. I want to love myself. I want to love my life. That's what we all want. But what we truly believe at the subconscious level, if we're not doing that, if we're not experiencing that, then we've got programming to clean up. That part of us, that innate intelligence or your divine intelligence, that part that's bigger than you, right? That's higher self, that conscious part that's connected to that universe and all of its wonder and perfection, that keeps planets spinning in orbit and gravity. And that part is never going to look upon you, flow energy to you, and say, you're right, you're not smart enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not capable enough, right? So we have to really investigate and contemplate the things that we tell ourselves, because truly this is the real reason behind the desire to live authentically in the first place. The world isn't the reason for you not being able to have or be or do any of the things that you want. That's just your brain's way of making you right. It will always spin a story to make you right. That's why in every argument, have you noticed? Your version is skewed or angled just a bit more towards you than the other person, and their version is skewed just a bit more towards them. That's our incredible brains. Your brain will always show you the evidence of what you believe to be true about yourself and about the world. So instead, if we looked at this reflection of our life, and instead of making it a self-judgment about us and our capability and our worth, what if we were able to become so emotionally mature and resilient and intelligent, we could look at it basically just showing us how we're doing and where we need to tweak things. Because we are story-making machines. And we are meaning-making machines to those stories. So not only do we tell ourselves a story of why we can't have it, there is a meaning behind that about us that's personal. And it's those two things that conflict with our idealism of living an authentic life. So we tell a story in a way that's a bit curated towards us being right and justified for why we can't have what we want, while we also feel terrible deep down inside because part of us knows what we're telling ourselves is not true. Not to the universe, not true to our divine innate intelligence within us. And this very conflict has us say, I want to live my authentic life as my authentic self. So really when we say this, what we're actually saying is, I know there's more for me, but I am scared. I am terrified. I can't find it. I feel it, but I tell myself all the reasons why things don't work for me. And I'm terrified that if I try and fail, this story in my head will be true. That past pain will have been true. That I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not lovable. And fill in the blank. So what happens is it's more soothing to blame others and the world and play small and stay safe, avoiding that fear of pain, because the subconscious mind doesn't know that that's in the past. Anytime we get anywhere near that same feeling, that same risk factor, it's going to associate it in a millisecond, and it's happening right now in real time. So we're going to do that until it isn't soothing anymore. Those coping mechanisms start to really get in our way and sabotage us. We get older, and hopefully we become much more resilient and much more emotionally intelligent. And the fear of not fulfilling our purpose, having meaning to our life that feels so good to us, that becomes more intense than our fear of emotional pain. And that's when things start to change. That's when people come looking for me. Living authentically actually means that I've got to clean up my past and make my beliefs congruent with what my innate intelligence within me knows to be true about me. That's the work. And as soon as we start to do that, at first all the fears come up. What if? What if I'm really not good enough? What if I fail? What if? And then as we collapse them, the programming that says, right, be careful. Remember when Dad said, what's wrong with you? We don't want to hear that and feel that again. Remember when Mom said, why can't you just behave? We don't want to feel rejected by her or anyone ever again. Remember in school when you didn't fit in? We don't want to go for that bigger life and risk that criticism again. And when we reorganize the subconscious and teach it what we want, we can also reorganize all of those what ifs. What if you succeed? What if the world needs exactly what you uniquely offer? What if the idea becomes the best thing that you have ever done for yourself? What if that nudge is a guiding light for you? And yeah, we're not perfect. We're going to fall on our bums sometimes. But we don't have to beat ourselves up for that. That's part of learning. That's not part of our worth or value. That does not equate to our value. I recently went to see the movie Saturday Night that's just come out in the theaters. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but there's a big television show in the US called Saturday Night Live. And it is almost about to celebrate its 50th anniversary. And this movie was based on the first 90 minutes before that very first show went to live air. And it was so good. And I'm not going to ruin the plot here because it's really worth seeing, but especially if you're a fan of the show. But imagine if someone like Lorne Michaels, the creator of the show, never believed in it. Imagine if he never believed that he could create this live show with a group of completely unknown 20-somethings that he thought had talent on a major television network and bring something so new and fresh and invigorating to the public. Imagine the last 50 years of this iconic show would never have existed. But he followed that inner guiding light, and he had struggles all along the way. But he followed that innate intelligence. And even when everything said, this isn't going to work, even when they told him some information that was astounding to learn in the film. And as I was sitting watching and contemplating it at the same time, and then contemplating it later when I came home, I really had so many of these recollections of these what-if moments in my own life that turned into extraordinary experiences. That they become almost like following a path your innate intelligence lays out for you. You develop this relationship, this really powerful relationship between you and you, right? Bigger you. That part that can see the road ahead and knows where you want to go and orchestrates it perfectly for you to follow. Remember, your brain is your ally. Your subconscious mind is the mechanism that we project from So we've got to clean up that terrain because the mechanism is extraordinary and it will prove you right and it will move all the pieces around to align what it is that you believe. So what you believe becomes the foundation of the entire process of living that authentic life that you're after, of that love and of that excitement and hope and beauty and unity and all of it. Because at that point, then your beliefs are all on board. And you know what happens? You start to expect it. This is the magic of being human, in my opinion. When you understand how your mind works for you and you take responsibility for it without it being anything to do with self-judgment, then you start to have an extraordinary experience. This, in my opinion, is the actual magic of what we call authenticity. And the most important part is it's already built inside of you, right? It's already working. It's already powerful. It's just working to guide you to more of what you don't want, because those are your stronger beliefs. Your brain doesn't judge you. Your subconscious mind doesn't ever analyze you, recognize reality from imagination, or deem you worthy or unworthy. It simply carries out instructions impressed upon it. We truly are our own reality-making machines. And you're already extraordinary. But you've just got to clean up that terrain in a way that's right for you. This is where the custom work really shines, because we might have similar beliefs, but we had completely different experiences. And so when you deal with them in a way specifically for your past, not a generalized way that everybody can relate to, but yours. This is so key, and it's why the results come over time. And so for the next month, what I'd like you to consider is this question: what would really make you happy? And please try not to make it about others. I would be happy if this person did this or loved me or treated me differently. That's just trying to control others' behavior and control the narrative. We don't do that. That would sound more like, I would be so happy if I woke up every day feeling loved, feeling healthy in my body, knowing my worth and experiencing kindness and love with others. And then start to do one thing, just one small thing every day. One small thing every day where you give that to yourself. Do something kind for yourself. Maybe that one thing is to catch yourself when you're speaking negatively, judging yourself, being mean to yourself, because we are so hard on ourselves. And instead say, I love you. You really are a miracle. You don't realize it, but you are. The fact that you're here, the odds that it's you, made up with your specific genes and DNA, if you really truly understood how extraordinary it was that that made you, specifically you, and there's no other you in that blueprint on this planet. And if you're not confident in how to do that, you can access a free audio download on my website at any time. That's at megadamsonhypnotherapy.com. You just put your name and email in at the bottom and it'll automatically send it to you. This is all about how to relieve stress in your life specifically. It's about 25 minutes long. And there's another resource that I've just made available, and it's under the menu, under shop, and then master courses, and it's called How to Achieve Any Goal, and it's completely free of charge. These can really get you started reprogramming your subconscious mind, because that is where all the magic lies. And then you can start taking inspired action steps because you start to feel better. And when you're doing that, you're rebuilding that relationship between you and you. I'm launching a new event coming in January. That's also on the website that you can read about. But I want to thank you for this beautiful time with you. Thank you for investing in yourself by spending time watching the program, watching the videos, contemplating your own life, wanting more, being willing to do the work. You are more rare than you realize. You are more rare than a lot of the general population, and I want you to really own that. Thank you for being who you are, for being here. Thank you for listening to this segment and for inviting me into your home and being so welcoming and so warm. I'm honored. Be well. Live fully. And I'll see you next month.
Thank you, Meg. Incredible. Yeah, I love the way she puts things, because she talks about the same thing the group talks about many times, but she puts it in different words. It's absolutely fascinating. We talk a lot about the bodysuit and the things that are going on. I will also say that, recently we just finished a 2-day focus event on manifestation. And in manifestation, the group was talking mostly about living in the fifth dimension, in the fifth dimensional attributes, the higher attributes that we have now in front of us that we don't recognize because we're still trying to play the game with third dimensional rules. We're still trying to play the old game. And of course, all the fear of movement forward is trying to bring people back into the good old days, which people think we're good. So anyway, a lot of the fun things that come up with that. But I wanted to mention that during those times, they actually mentioned that in the fifth dimension, that you would actually be able to see your own motivations a lot more clearly. And they said this clarifies your manifestations. Very simple. If you see your own motivations, you're in agreement with your motivations, you balance between your head and your heart, you will manifest in the fifth dimension. Now, there's a lot to that, and there's more coming even today. The group's going to talk a little bit about duality coming up today, and that was a big part of the seminar that we also had. Also, I want to tell you, too, that next month, in November, we will be talking about specifically about, we'll have 2 days. I think it's the 15th and the 22nd. It's the third and fourth Friday of the month. That's how these are going to run now. So the last 2 Fridays of the month are going to be the focus events, where we allow other people in to come in and just buy those events. Other than that, they're part of Lightmaster. If you buy the Lightmaster events, everything is included. But the last 2 that we're going to do in November are on your dark side. It's called Embracing Your Shadow Self. And the idea is to balance your dark side for personal growth, to be able to ground, to be able to release that. We all have that part of ourselves that we see. And part of this is coming out of duality, which the group's going to talk about right now. But the idea of that is that embraces all of us, not just a little part of us or part of who we think we are. We can actually embrace the whole person. And the group has said this from the beginning. There is beauty in the darkness. That's it. If you doubt that, if you've ever read a poem by Edgar Allan Poe, if you've ever seen some of the crazy movies that are out there, there's all kinds of people that are very, very much on the dark side and very beautiful. So that's part of what we're going to see. We're going to see part of our own embrace of our shadow self, how we can ground that in safe, comfortable ways, and how we can bring that through in a lot of different ways. So that'll be coming up on the November the 15th and 22nd live, or any time thereafter. I'm going to bring the group in. We'll close with the channel for the month. I'm looking forward to it. Aspav, everybody. Thanks for being with us. I'll be right back. Greetings, dear ones. We join you this day. Your game is well in progress. You are moving at the speed of love, which is slightly faster than the speed of light. So welcome this day. Let us speak this day, as we've talked about the What Is series. What is this? What is that? From our perspective. One of the things that we'd like you to see from our perspective is what you have termed as duality. Living in a field of duality for a very long time, we'd like to explain a little bit of that. What that is, what that looks like from our perspective, what the future of duality has, how it's going to integrate in different ways. First of all, let's speak about common dimensionality. In other words, you're talking about living in the fifth dimension after moving out of the third dimension. Well, that brings to mind immediately what happened to the second and what happened to the fourth dimension. Well, we'll speak of that a little bit. But the most important part is to know that this is what we call a collective dimension, not multidimensionality. That is quite different. But the collective dimensions are the dimensions in which you live. Now, first, let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning of the first dimension. That is unity. And basically what that means is that you are all part of each other. You are all integrated as one being. Now, the reality is you're that way now, but you can't see that. You can't feel that. Part of your own energy that you received, and we'll talk about that, keeps you from feeling those connections. But you're connected to everything. You're part of everything. It's very beautiful in some ways and very frustrating in others. So nonetheless, you have this deep connection with everything. But you want to start to evolve, to grow, to do something different. Well, there's no way for one to see oneself when you are everything. When you are finite, it is not possible. It is possible to see yourself. When you are infinite, it is not possible. There's no contrast. So to develop that contrast, you left the first dimension. You moved from unity through the second dimension. The second dimension was not a place where you stay, where you grow and evolve. Rather, it is simply a place where you receive imprints. Imprints that you're going to need for this evolution and this stay in the third dimension. So as you pass through the second dimension, you picked up many imprints that you would normally not have as a spirit connected to everything else. You start to see yourself as separate. One of the burdens that you must carry from this point forward after the second dimension is an ego. Your ego was imprinted upon you in the second dimension. It gave you the first sights of yourself to be able to see yourself in some ways. Gave you a sense of self. And it's very frustrating sometimes because your sense of self, yourself, is much larger than you can perceive. So with that, that's one of the imprints that you would generally receive. On top of that, you also received an imprint of duality. The imprint of duality was very simply contrast. When you are home, when you are connected to everything and every being, there's no contrast. You cannot see each other. The only reason you see a person now is because they are different in contrast than the background behind them. If they are exactly the same as the background behind them, they tend to disappear into that background. So to receive the contrast, you took on stamps of duality. Duality, very simple. They would take you to the outer edges, the extremes of everything. You would look for things to be up, down, good, bad, right, wrong, love, fear, all of the opposites. The reality is in the middle somewhere. There never was a black or a white. It has always been shades of gray. But nonetheless, you perceive things this way because it allowed you to step out of that singularity into a state of pretending to be separate from each other. And duality has worked quite well. Now, as you take these next steps and start anchoring into the fifth dimension, you've also already passed through the fourth dimension. You'll find that after going through the fourth dimension, you've been imprinted with new imprints. And although you keep trying the old imprints in the fifth dimension, the reality is the new imprints are going to open up millions of times more possibilities for you. So stretching into those means releasing some of the ideas that restrict you from that. Because your bodysuit carries all of your belief systems. It carries who you are, carries your experiences, your good, your bad, your indifferent ones, all part of this avatar that you use to move through life. Not the physical body, but the bodysuit itself, the energetic bodysuit. So when you work with this in this way, it basically presents itself and gives you opportunities to use it in many different ways. in the third dimension, which you humans have been in the third dimension for some 14,000 years. So the reality is you've been very comfortable where you are. Never before has anyone and any beings anywhere shifted dimensions like you are doing, which is why all eyes upon the universe that can see are watching planet Earth during these times. These are critical times in many different ways, dear ones. These are the times that you set your footprints down for others to follow. Because as we mentioned, there will be many who come to watch, to see how it was done on planet Earth, to figure out the best ways to do their own lives, their own planets, to take things in a new direction. So you are the first ones that have had the blindfolds completely removed. You are on the planet of free choice. And although some of your choices are not completely free, the reality is you have chosen to play this game. Now, with that, you'll also find that new opportunities abound in the fifth dimension. Many of the limitations are there for you to grasp, to start using very practically and very energetically right away. But we also tell you many of your old belief systems keep you from doing it. Number one, your ego. That is a second dimension attribute that you received. Your ego needs a fairly major adjustment, dear ones, because we tell you you are creator beings. And yet it is really not quite possible for you to grasp that you have created everything that you see and you open your eyes. It's not possible for you to grasp that the atoms were moving around inside the room all on their own until you opened the door and they suddenly formed what you were expecting to see. You are creator beings far and beyond your understanding. Many of the stories you tell of masters that have walked upon the earth are sometimes only stories, but the reality is you feel drawn to them many times because you know the truth in them. You know that you have those capabilities. And yet you can't see it in the lower vibrations, mostly because you're looking for the extremes. That is what duality does. The duality has you immediately look for the opposite ends. Well, what happens if I don't do that? What happens if I do that? Not, are you happy doing this or are you happy doing that? But rather, where are the extremes? Even your relationships. You tend to remember your relationships by how they ended. And sometimes how they began. The ends, the opposite ends. That is a duality imprint that exists in many aspects of your life. And as we mentioned, in the third dimension, dear ones, this has been very successful at allowing you to actually find your own energetics and express yourself in these beautiful ways. So it is not a wrong thing. And yet many of the basic understandings of duality do not hold water in the same ways that they once did. You know, dear ones, for the longest time you had to decide collectively what was right and what was wrong. What if we told you those things never existed? The reality is you made those up yourselves. And they help you to move from one level to the next because you learn to work in harmony in those ways. But the reality is there's no cut and dried with any of it. Many of you know that, especially those of you who work with enforcing the law. You'll know perfectly well that there are wide varieties of infractions that can be had and wide varieties of response that can come with that would be very effective rather than to have one idea fits all. Well, you're finding these things out. Now, many of your systems are very simply set up. This is the law. This is the way it is. You break the law, you do this. You don't break the law, you have all these freedoms. Very simple and very effective in the lower vibrations of the third dimension. Are you ready to scrap all these laws and step into the higher vibration? Well, dear ones, we happen to think you are, but the rest of the world is clearly not ready. Yet you can plant the seeds for that readiness. You can plant and stamp those energies there that you have gone before, and bring those thoughts and those ideas to share with those around you. For that is planting the seeds of a higher vibration as you walk upon the earth. Dear ones, the magic is here. So how does that work? And more importantly, what did you get stamped with in the fourth dimension? Well, one of the things that you are stamped with, dear ones, is the capabilities of connecting to your other own dimensions. In other words, multi-dimensionality, not collective dimensionality, not the third, fourth, and fifth dimension. We're talking about the 11 of you, 12 of you if you include your higher self. That is the magic of the threes that hold. The reality is you have 12 of you. 11 of you are all having experiences. The one of you, the higher self, is connecting all of you with not only with each other, but with your own home, with your own spirit. That is your direct connection home. And that is the part of it. But up to this point, dear ones, on your planet with duality, it was important to not see into the other dimensions of time-space. Very simple. It was important for you to only get a reflection of who you were and where you were going and what you were doing. And it worked quite well. But in the fifth dimension, dear ones, that is starting to fade. You're starting to see that there's much more capability of seeing into other dimensions, to hearing other things. Now, just because you hear it from another dimension, does it make it true? Well, this whole idea of truth, dear ones, has already gone by the wayside on planet Earth. You do not share the same truths in these days. You have clearly been separated in your truths. So the reality is, find what works for you. Claim your truth. Dare to speak it, but speak it in such a way that it does not exclude everyone else. Speak it in such a way to make harmony for those who have a different truth to be standing next to you. You are all spirits from home. You simply have different experiences that give you different belief systems. But as you step further into the fifth dimension, you'll even hear parts of your own self that have opposing views of things that you have on your planet right now. And this is part of the balance. You also have many different aspects of things that you can be learned by a spirit as a whole. And as such, you go into this multidimensional experience. And again, the idea was to completely keep it separate from each other. As you move further into the fifth dimension, the walls between these dimensions get thinner and thinner. In the very beginning, you can start to hear things. You might even start to see little shadow figures out of the corners of your eye. You've seen any of the aspects of it. Now, years later, even after that has begun, you can actually start to feel heart connections. In other words, the magnetics of the heart coming through these walls. Sometimes that can be quite confusing, because sometimes you can feel it and pushes you into fear. For it's very difficult to equate exactly where it's coming from. So sometimes it triggers some of those fears that are deep within, having to do with energetics that you do not understand. And yet, other times it gets you very excited about the possibilities. But the reality is you're going to hear different aspects. None of them are perfectly true. Please understand that. What you are doing is exposing yourself to the whole collective which makes up the truth of you. But it's all 11 of you, connected through the higher self, through the 12th dimension. Now, as you continue to move forward, what's happened is you've gone through the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension has imprinted you with the multidimensional capabilities. Again, if you live your life in duality with extreme yes and no, extreme answers, black and white and clear and foggy, and the whole process around it, if you live firmly in those areas, you won't be able to see the new fifth dimensional attributes that you've gained. You won't be able to hear into other dimensions of time, space quite the same way. So starting to release the imprints of duality become some of the greatest ways of anchoring in the fifth dimension. And we tell you that is not easy. Does it mean you're going to scrap duality altogether? No, dear ones, we tell you you're clearly not ready for that. But there are many of you here that are here way ahead of the game, trying to find your place, trying to find your comfort, your safe space, if you will, while all this chaos starts to unfold on planet Earth. It will continue for a time, absolutely. But the more important part is to know that you've come with a piece of the puzzle. Now, if you can anchor this, if you can hear many parts of yourself, if you can hear and be around someone who has a completely different belief system of truth than you do, and yet you can still recognize your spirits from home, now you've opened up your multidimensional capabilities. And you start stepping through life in a different way to experience all these fun things rather than so much negate them or so much isolate yourself to only one thought or only one stream of thought. Take a breath, everyone. Anchor that beautiful light in the physical body. Let it flow all the way through you. Feel the connection to the earth as she welcomes that energy you release through your feet. You may take all the negativity you wish and bring it into the earth in these ways. She feeds on it. It is a different aspect than you think. Much the same way that when you inhale, you bring in oxygen into your lungs. You use it, and you exhale carbon dioxide. Well, you would think that that was bad, but the trees don't. The trees inhale the carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. The same is true with Earth. Give her your negative energy. Let her transmute it for you. It actually feeds her in many ways. Now, the Earth herself is making many changes and shifting in many directions, as we've mentioned before. But again, stepping out of duality can have a huge part in whatever small ways that you can, to know that everything is on a scale that runs between black and white, but there is no black and white. There never was. It's all these beautiful shades of gray and all the massive colors in between. So choose your space. But know that duality has been here. You have been raised in duality, and therefore releasing all these pieces is difficult. And yet, to even listen to this, to think about your own duality, your own exercises of what is right and what is wrong, your own set of rules that you either lay down for your children or for other people in your life or for yourself. Stretch them out. Release many of the restrictions of duality. And watch what starts to happen. You'll find natural corrections coming in from different aspects because you've opened the doors to your multidimensional self. On top of that, your ego will need a final rebalancing. That is a second dimensional attribute that will not completely anchor in the fifth dimension in the same way. So rebalancing the ego, for most of you, might surprise you. It means bringing your ego up, not down. The reality is, if we tell you you are God, you have a very difficult time accepting that. Because your ego puts a natural perception on, no, that's not the person we see. We do not see the perfect person you speak of. You have belief systems in your bodysuit that you have gained throughout the whole process. Most of those belief systems are built on duality. Take a look. We've given you a suggestion to move into a field of triality. Triality simply means there is a third stage to everything, and there is. Number one, the universe is built on threes. There are many of your masters that have known this, that have used this to even produce their own forms of magic. Christ was one. Nikola Tesla was another. There are many attributes of people that have used some of these attributes quite well and understood them, but all of them say you can do the same thing. So start looking at the higher realities of what you can grasp, how you can start to work in the fifth dimension, how you can release many of those restrictions and reactions that don't actually exist in the fifth dimension, but they're third dimensional realities that you're dragging into the fifth dimension. Well, these are many times your negative emotions and things that need balancing. There are other ways of balancing this energy. But to go on this grand hunt, to look for all these spirits that you've known from home. Some of them you see behind a physical face that you do not know, but they smile and suddenly you know them. This is the search for spirit that all of you are looking for. Connect them with them and you have found your way home. It's a magical time to be on planet Earth, dear ones. And you are the magicians of the game board. You are the ones who've dared to take off your wings to play a game of pretending to be a human on a very dense planet with a lot of fear on it. But we also know that you came to hold that energy, that higher vibration of the fifth dimension, the pure love that can exist when all the rest has been removed. We will speak much of it, but duality, please do not think it is good or bad. Do not think that it is right or wrong, for those are duality imprints in themselves. But know that your restrictions many times are in your beliefs in duality. All we ask you to do is examine them one by one as they start to come up. Look and see how you can stretch into a higher vibrational reckoning of your own mind, of your own self, by anchoring through the love of spirit. You're closer than you think. You're anchoring quite a lot of love on this planet right now. And for that, dear ones, we are eternally grateful. Please know that you're on a very magical path. We ask you to look at some of these higher vibrational attributes. We're going to start sharing more of that with you, how to live in the fifth dimension, the tools that will work in the fifth dimension once you are able to release some of the second dimensional imprints that you have received. There's much of this. There's much more than we can talk about at this point. But there's much of this coming in the days ahead. And basically stepping up to live in a higher vibrational world does not mean you're abandoning your visions, does not mean you're abandoning your commitments to other people. What it means is that you're opening the door for all of humanity to follow in the most magical ways. Connect your heart and your head together and step forward into a fifth dimensional reality where the most beautiful things exist. Welcome home, dear ones. It is with the greatest of honor we ask you to treat each other with respect. Nurture one another at every opportunity and play well together as you create this new game. We are the group of 9, and we are complete. Aspavo, dear ones. Well, that took a lot out of me. Okay. Have a great month, everybody. Hope you have an absolutely magical month ahead of you. There's so many wonderful things that you can be part of here. Welcome home. And welcome to the fifth dimension. Spab, everybody.